Good day and welcome to another week of A Week at the Plot on the Wednesday afternoon. The first segment, and it feels a bit deja vu, to be honest. When I came down last week there was a big pile of woodchip which all went, and now there's a new big pile of woodchip. So that's grand, because there's quite a lot of paths that need woodchip. I just come along here. Our paths can get quite muddy, and by putting wood chip along them, it helps traction with boots and shoes and things like that. It reduces the mud clodding on the shoes and things. And the great thing is, of course, it just breaks down and goes into the paths. Even sort of like now, mid-January, all of this wood chip will eventually rot down over the coming months, go into these paths, and they'll still be able to be mown, which is fabulous. But yeah, I was really pleased to see another load of wood chip. I'm just sort of looking now at what needs to be done. As I said last week, I was making lists of things that need to be done. That bed over there needs to be finished. But I think this is going to be... I've been thinking about where things are going to go this year, and this will likely change. But this, I think, is going to be beans. So it's going to be climbing beans mainly. These two beds are already brassicas, so this will remain a brassica bed. Over there, I think that's going to be a tomato bed. So we'll have all our tomatoes over there by the greenhouse. Then this is going to be a broad bean bed to begin with. I mean, it is a broad bean bed at the moment, but of course they've all been eaten. So yeah, broad bean bed there. Where the raised bed is, that's going to be carrots and parsnips. This bed, I think, is going to be broad beans again. We've got a bit of chard in there, and we've got some endive and not endive, chicory and beetroot still. So I think we'll mostly leave the chard in, but start planting that up. Yeah, I think, or maybe we should do broad beans. Actually, you know what? I think because the broad beans are going to be later, even though we're going to be sowing some in the greenhouse in modules this week, the broad beans this year, because these have all been eaten, won't be as early as I'd anticipated. So I think actually down this side we might put some more broad beans and leave that side as chicory. And then coming up here, here's a job I need to do. Well, there's lots of jobs I need to do, but removing all of that grass from the soft fruit bed. And then I think this is going to be turnips and beetroot. That soft fruit there, which is josterberry and autumn fruiting raspberry on the left, we'll sort those out in the next week, because they need some work, and that bed needs a good weed. Over there we've got our asparagus, and we're going to put potatoes in that bed again. The raised bed over here, this one, that is going to be, I think, likely potatoes, or maybe beetroot. We do like our beetroot. And then this is just going to be a flower bed, this one. This one here is going to be flowers up at the top, up here. And then we've got garlic here already, obviously. So that is going to be coming out at the end of May. So we'll most probably be planting something into that, which will likely be beetroot and turnips, I think. Then this bed, which looks pretty weedy, there's a few weeds in there, but it's mainly Nigella and sort of quite nice plants in there rather than weeds. This is going to be a herb bed. This one here is going to be a flower bed, and then the one with the bench and the bucket, that I think is going to be squash. So I think I'm beginning to work out what's going where, which I think is pretty useful. And what I'll do when I get home, excuse me, I'll go over what I've just said to you and make notes of what I've just said, which I think is quite important, and then I can try and follow it. I'll check out my seeds as well, because I think I've got all the seeds that I need this year. And then in the poly, we'll have lettuce, and we're going to try some sweet potatoes, which actually I'm going to be getting ready in water in maybe actually this week. I think I'm going to start those this week. So yeah, that's my plan for the year. Lots of work to do in the meantime, and lots of weeding. But yeah, that seems sensible. I mean, it is, as you can see, it's now 3:30 and it's damp. The skies are grey. That grey blanket of cloud has descended again. It's much milder. It's about 10 degrees at the moment, but because of the greyness, because of how damp it is, it feels quite cold. Where last week at the same time I was down here, we were seeing sunsets which were amazing, and blue skies and so much sun, that despite it being really cold, it sort of felt the same as it does today, apart from being much brighter. Yeah, but last week for us was bitterly cold, but it's really lifted in the last couple of days. Anyway, I was delighted to see that wood chip when I got to the gate. I had said to the guy who arranges it for the tree surgeon company that if they did have another load, we could really do with it. We should have had a working party, a working social on Saturday morning last week. It didn't happen because it was so cold, and a lot of the jobs we wanted to do, which included pruning of fruit trees and roses, the communal ones, because it was so frosty and it was sub-zero at night, it wouldn't have been sensible to have done that. So a lot of wood chip was put onto the paths, like we've seen today, by other people who know that is what we do. So that's great. So when I said to the guy another load would be, wonderful, it was great to see that today. So I'm going to have to send him a WhatsApp of thanks for doing us again with wood chip. And of course it benefits the tree surgeon company as well, because they have to pay to have the wood chippings disposed of. So if they can go to allotment sites like us and possibly other places that can use them, it means that they have they don't have to pay for the disposal at a council site or something like that. So effectively their profitability increases, and it means we don't have to buy in wood chip to do what we want to do. Not that we would buy in wood chip because it can be quite expensive, but to have a free load like that on a regular basis is really great. And we were asked, how do we arrange this? It's actually something that I arranged several years ago with a local tree surgeon company, and there are a couple who do, but there's one main one. They do number 10 as well, number 10's gardens and other big gardens like that. And they do, yeah, I arranged it several years ago, and I said, whenever you're working in the local area, do feel that you can drop off wood chip to us. So we do get them quite regularly, maybe once a month. maybe a little less so during the summer. And of course there are an awful lot of other allotment sites in the area that also want wood chip, but I think we've got a really good relationship, so we often get an additional load, let's say. Yeah, we did actually have during when that lockdown was sort of being lessened, released a few years ago, we did get wood chip from number 10 gardens, which was quite amusing really, because it was wood chip that had overseen all those parties that were going on. So yeah, anyway, right, it is drizzling a little now, so I'm going to go, and I'll see you a little bit later in the week. Bye. Good day. As you can see, I've continued on this bed today, and it still needs work, though has been significantly weeded and turned. It's not level. If I come down here, falling over, you can most probably see that this end and this corner is a bit higher than everywhere else. But I'm happy with that job today, and over the coming weeks, when I see any green bits sticking up, I'll just pull them out, which is what I'm doing with that bed over there. I'm pondering the edges and how I manage those. I do have some metal edging that I could put down. I'd sort of like to try and edge this bed without putting anything in, but I'm not sure whether my OCD will allow me to do that. Just as when I was finishing this up, my OCD kicked in over here, and I decided to weed these blueberries. And in this case and this case here, it was a relatively simple matter of pulling shallow or deep rooted, because there were some dandelions in here, so I've taken the dandelions out and any other weeds, and I was hoping to be able to do the same in here. But maybe you can see, if we look down, the placement of, well, not placement, where these weeds have sprouted are right in the middle of this crown of blueberries. So I'm definitely going to have to take that back to bare root, because there's just too much weed coming up from the base of the growing area. So I will have to do that. This one here, because I was taking out a deep dandelion, I had to lift that out as well, so that will likely perform not at all well this year, simply because I've uprooted it and then rerouted it back in. But we shall see. I can see on here, look, there's growth. Can you see that? Oh, can I get in there close enough? There's growth on there coming already. So I need to get on and do that either this weekend or early next week. And they could all do with a top dressing. If we've got enough wood chip left after the work social tomorrow, I will look at top dressing these. They do need some work though. I sort of left them because I anticipated last year that we might be moving, and I thought I'll deal with them when we get to our new place, though of course that didn't happen. Anyway, yes, I've been thinking about the work social tomorrow. Let me just take you to a couple of jobs. Somebody has left a Christmas tree there, which we'll most probably take in. Actually, I can see it could just be tucked in there. But yeah, the hawthorn here needs a little bit of work, and this cornice needs cutting back. Not sure if you can see all those bits sticking out, but they need cutting back. You know, we have small children coming along here, well, from small children to adults, so you know, things like that, you don't want that poking into somebody's eye because they didn't see it in the dusk. This is another of the jobs that we're going to be doing tomorrow, cutting back this ivy or touching it back. We're not really removing it, we're just making sure that bits like this that are hanging out, these bits here, are cut back, because when it gets wet and they're heavy, just like I said about the ivy outside our home, it you know, it drapes on people's clothes and things, and they get really wet. So that's another job. And then up here, I need to look at this tree, because I've been looking at it over the last year and it seems to be coming forward, which means it's either bending forward and dying, or bending forward and living, or being pushed forward from something that someone's put in the dead hedge. So we need to look at that. So yeah, and on my way home I'll pick up this bag and put it in my rubbish bin. I've watched a whole load of kids and parents and things like that just walk straight past it, even though all of them live rather close. Anyway, back inside the allotment, that is. One of our tenants looks after the riverbank and has been sorting out this tree, this willow rather, cutting it back. So there's a whole lot of branches that have been cut off there, and he's laid a whole load here as well. Some of these can obviously be used in one way or another, and other bits are really sort of a bit too wispy, so we'll be looking at whether we get some of the wispy bits, smaller bits under here, because if we don't do that, when this area floods, which it will do at some point, it'll just go into the river. I mean, those trees over there aren't our responsibility, they're the Ealing Borough Council's, that side, but this side is ours. So I think a litter pick, you can see maybe over here some litter, so a litter pick along the bank. You can see a Marathon Snickers bar there. Litter pick tomorrow as well. Yeah. The guy who does this, it's yeah, he's done more here as well. Yeah, these bits particularly look much smaller, and they will just go into the river and end up, of course, in the Thames. So we'll have a look at that. And our willow that we planted last year, we're not sure it survived, but we did see some growth from below. You can see here, see there's some growth from below here, but the top, not sure if you can see this, but the top, that's basically dead. And this is where the graft was, so I think we can actually take it down to the stock willow down here. I think we'll have a think about that. Maybe, I mean, I can see nothing along here at all apart from lichen. Yeah, if we come over here, yeah, there's nothing there. Yeah, maybe just leave it till the next work social. Oh look, I'm being watched by a little coot. Oh. And this is the River Brent going up here. And this here, you can hear a trickle most probably. That's a runoff from the what do you call it, the drainage of the allotment site. Anyway, oh, I'm going back up here now. And I'll leave you here. This is our wildlife area, which I think you've seen before, and also our bees area. So all the huts around here are the huts for beekeepers. Anyway, see you very soon, and I'll stop waffling on. Bye. Good day. I think it's fair to say that I'm not going to be tripping on this path in the coming weeks stroke months, and I'll tell you why in a mo. We had our work social yesterday morning, which followed on from me going around the site the other day, working out the jobs that needed to be done if we had a good turnout, and we did have a good turnout. There were quite a few people who wanted to do barrowing and shoveling of wood chip. I ended up here between my neighbour and myself with more wood chip on that path than I would wish. It's quite a grassy path. There are areas where it does get muddy, but they're sort of spot areas and quite narrow. So what I was doing this morning is I was taking some of that wood chip and putting it in front of the shed here, and just sort of in the traverse area that goes off to the greenhouse, and also up by the poly where there is a dip that needs a bit of filling in, and that gets a bit muddy outside the poly. So I've raked up some and moved it about. There's still some more that I think I might rake up and put into a container, because you can always put more wood chip down. If you have the wood chip, you can always put more down. What I want is, I don't want the layer here too much, too deep, too dark, that the grass doesn't grow. So yeah, when I finished off this week's a week at the plot, I'm just going to do a bit more judicious raking and collecting of some of that wood chip. But you know, this is the thing, people come, I have my jobs list, I say to people, will you do this, will you do that? And clearly I should have said to whoever did this area just here, it needs to be a thin scattering up that area. And of course, if you're being led by somebody, you know, you should do what they say. And if I didn't say that to that person, which I'm sure I didn't, then that person has done the job that I've asked them to do, which is fine. All of the other paths where it can get quite treacherous, or it gets quite muddy over the next couple of months, they have all been done. We've also cut back the ivy at the front. There's maybe another 2 meters of that hedge that needs to be sorted. All the willow on the bank, that has now been moved, which is great. So that area is clear. There's some more that could be done maybe at the next work party. and all of the big bits of willow have gone into the orchard area, so people can take from there if they wish to, and all the bits of brush have gone onto the dead hedge over there, so that's grand. What else did we do? The communal shed was tidied up, which was super, and a few paths. We have I mean, all our paths here are really communal, but the side paths between plots are generally used only for those plot holders and people coming to visit them, you know, other tenants generally, I mean. Some of those cross paths, rather than the sort of communal paths, they had things growing over them, bamboo and a cherry tree and also bramble, and those have been cut back as well. So actually we had a good turnout, and we got all the jobs done yesterday that I wanted to do, which is terrific. And then the other thing that I did yesterday on my tablet whilst I was watching I think it was Agatha Christie or something on TV, was I made a list of all the beds, like I went through earlier in the week, of what was going to go where. And of course, you don't have enough beds, do you? You never have enough beds. I've given over one bed up here to flowers this year. Is that the right decision? I'm not sure, but I'm going to go with it. I've got the bed at the back there, so I've made notes of what I said earlier in the week of what's going to grow where, and then I've also started moving things around. And I decided I wasn't going to grow peas this year, mange tout particularly. And there is one pea that I've been looking for quite a while. Not looking for, but thinking about growing for quite a while. It's quite a British pea. It's a Carlin pea. And this is a Red Carlin, and it was sent to us by Marina, which is really, it's one of those synchronicities. Because I was looking last week and I was thinking, should I grow some Carlin peas? I've wanted to for ages. They're a really old British pea, as I say, and Hodmadods, the tinned food grower in the UK that grows old and not hybrid, old veg basically, and they tin them, beans particularly and peas. I had a tin of their Carlin peas many years ago, and I really enjoyed them. And since that moment, and since remembering that Dad used to grow them many decades ago, I thought, oh, I must grow them. And each year I've thought about doing it, but each year I've thought, oh no, I'm doing this, and I'm doing that, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing that. So I've put it off. But you know what? I'm not sure how many are in here. Most probably looks about 50 in here. But oh yeah, it says 50. Look at that. It actually says it on the packet. Oh dear, how ridiculous. I think I might grow 20 of those in our bean bed and see how they do. I also remembered when I was making lists earlier in the week that I forgot about lettuce. We'll obviously be growing lettuce in the greenhouse, but I like outdoor lettuce, so I think I need to look a little bit more at that plan, which is just written down. It's typed up now. It's not a plan as in a sort of map plan, because I've just named the beds. I know what my beds are, so I've said what I'm going to grow in them. But yes, oh, that is funny about those 50 seeds. That's ridiculous. Yeah, so I'm going to grow 20 of them, or sow 20 of them, hopefully grow 20 on, and I'll keep the rest for when we do eventually move, because it is a pea that I want to grow. So thank you so much, Marina, for those. It was a lovely surprise. A book came through for Richard, and there was a sort of bump in the packet, and I thought, oh, I wonder what this is. I didn't know it was a book for Richard at the time, but it felt like a book. I opened it up, and it was from Marina, a book for Richard, can't be asked. And these Carlin pea seeds for me, so that was lovely. Thank you very much. I've said thank you, Marina, but I really do appreciate that. It's amazing how synchronicities come together. Bizarrely, this morning Richard and I were talking about this. Earlier in the week I was reading something and it mentioned the Lord's Prayer, and it took me back to being at assemblies and having to say the Lord's Prayer at assemblies. And I went through in my head, when I thought about this earlier in the week, the Lord's Prayer, and I went through it. I'm not I'm not religious in any way whatsoever, but I was sort of, can I remember the words? And I did. Whether they're the real words or not, I think some of them were sort of changed, but anyway. And then Richard and I were talking this morning, and he mentioned that he was going through in his mind the words of the Lord's Prayer this week, today, I think, or yesterday. And I was like, oh wow, I was doing that earlier in the week, and he had come across something on the internet that had made him think about the words of that prayer as well. And what synchronicity. However, it's not going to make us devoutly religious in any way whatsoever, I can assure you of that. So yeah, there we are. That's this week's A Week at the Plot. Another rather eclectic week, but that's what A Week at the Plot is. It's what I am doing and thinking of about, or at and about, the allotment each week. So yeah, there we are. So I'm going to get on with another bit of raking now and collecting up some more of those wood chip. I think actually behind the ceanothus there's an area there that gets quite muddy. I don't mean just behind me here, I mean behind the ceanothus, so I'll have a look at that. But yeah, there we are. And as you well, I don't think I've put that clip up yet, but all of that wood chip has gone now. It's all been laid out, so I think we may be ordering another, or asking, not ordering, asking for another lot of wood chip in a couple of weeks' time, so that people can have it for use on their own plots. I mean for composting and for sort of other purposes. So yeah, anyway, look, I'm rambling, I'm sorry, I'm rambling. Any comments, any questions, please do leave them as per usual down below. I really do appreciate them. And if you've got to the end of this video, bananas and whatever you are doing in your garden, your growing space, or your allotment, I hope you are getting a good deal of mental health benefit from it, even if there are those frustrations sometimes that we all know about, like with our broad beans, which I wasn't going to mention this week, but I have. I think we'll be sowing them next week. I've been looking at compost. Yeah, we'll talk about that next week. See you very soon, and happy growing. Bye.